Hello everybody, this is Brian Eslick here from How To Automotive. Today I'm gonna walk you through the process of changing your spark plugs on your BMW 128i, the E82. It has the 3-liter N51 motor in it, and we're gonna get started by removing all the cowling up here. And this is where your cabin filters are. So we're gonna remove all this so we can get these covers off. The engine covers here to get to the coils and spark plugs. So we're going to do this all with hand tools, and I'm going to use a little electric drill just to help speed things up, but you can do this all with hand tools, and I'll walk you through the process. So you're going to start by removing the 6 screws on the cowling here, on the one there, and then there's 2 here on the cowling. And after you get that removed, the cabin air filter, this is where your cabin air filter is also on this car. A lot of BMWs are right here, so you're going to remove that and set aside. The next step is these are your battery cables that run over to the starter and to your little jumper box spot where you can jump start the car. We need to remove this. And there's a wiring harness on top of it too. We need to remove these, and there's little clips in here. You'll have to take a little flat blade screwdriver, small one, and push it in here, and push the clips down on each one of these, and then pop them out towards you. So after detaching the battery cable and wiring harness from the cowling here, next we're going to do is pop off our covers here on the left and right side of the cowling. And then there will be a 10mm bolt right here we're going to get to. So what you want to do is there's a little rubber boot also attached, so you pry it off, and on the corner and the back corners, have a little tab out. That's the little tab I'm speaking of. And then those little covers come off. Set those aside, on both sides. You see I got that one off. And also this is a ambient temp sensor. So it's mounted in here like so. What you do is you twist it, counterclockwise, and then pull it out of the slot. And then it has these little clips that hold the wires on, so you just pop those out. And then right here on the corners, there's one on each side, there's a 10mm bolt that we're trying to get to. So what you want to do is there's a little rubber boot also attached, so you pry it off, and on the corner and the back corners, have a little tab out. That's the little tab I'm speaking of. And then those little covers come off. Set those aside, on both sides. You see I got that one off. And also this is a ambient temp sensor. So it's mounted in here like so. What you do is you twist it, counterclockwise, and then pull it out of the slot. And then it has these little clips that hold the wires on, so you just pop those out. And then right here on the corners, there's one on each side, there's a 10mm bolt that we're trying to get to. I told you a 10mm bolt, but it turned out to be an 8mm. So once you get those out of the corners, next step is there's also another right here. There's another part of this rubber seal here to prevent, and that seal is actually to prevent stuff like this, like the leaves and stuff, from falling into it. So you want to pop those out of its little perch, one on each side. And then once you get that out, the whole thing lifts. The whole package tray lifts and comes out. You just set that aside. So now that you got the package tray off, you need to get this engine cover off here. And to do that, we're going to use, let's see what size it is, a 5mm Allen's. There's 4 screws, so one here, one in the back here, and one right underneath the wiring harness right here that you can get to with an extension. Okay, once the bolts are removed, just lift up on the front, just slide the whole cover off like so and set aside. Okay, now that we got the cover off, now you can actually see our ignition coil is here. And what we're going to do is, let's see if I can get out of the shadows here, is you pop them up like so, and that unplugs the wire. So you just pry it up like so, pop off. We're going to do that with all 6 of them. So after you unplug all the coils, the next step is to pop the coils out, and they're just pressed in, so there's no bolts or anything holding them in. So what I do is I get a pry bar like so, and I put it under the corner right here, and I usually use 2 hands, and I'll pry up like so a little bit, and then pull the coils out, all 6 of them. So the coils come out pretty easily. After you get all 6 of them out, then we'll remove our spark plugs. Okay guys, all you need is a standard 5/8 spark plug socket and extension. And when you're doing these, I recommend removing the spark plugs by hand with a ratchet, and don't use power tools. It's very easy to pull the threads out of the cylinder heads on these things, and especially if they've been in it for a long time, or if you're in an area where there's a lot of corrosion and stuff like that. And here where I'm at in Southern California, we really don't have those problems, but it's always wise to just do it by hand, removing and installing the spark plugs, and resist using power tools. So it's pretty straightforward. Just extension. The only one that's going to give you a little trouble is this one here, and you may want to use, like I have a particular, on my socket here, it has a semi wobble where you can get it around the corner like so, and actually get the socket out, get the spark plug out. Or what you could do is use shorter extensions where it's just in here like so, and get it out. That's the only thing I have to work around is the strut brace here. Cylinder number 5 is the only one that's going to give me any trouble, but the rest of them are straightforward. So on this BMW, it came with NGKs from the factory. You can see the BMW marking on the actual spark plug. So we're going to replace them with, factory replacement NGK spark plugs. They already come pre-gapped. The only thing you want to check for is to make sure that the boxes weren't dropped or damaged, and make sure that the gap is, if you look at the original one, it's pretty consistent with that. Now some people like to put anti-seize on the threads of their spark plugs, but most of the time these cars don't come with this stuff on there, so I don't tend to use it. So what you want to do though is if you look, it has this little crush washer here on it, and you want to run it down slowly until the crush washer just touches, and then you want to, with your ratchet, you want to tighten it down so you can feel that washer crush with your hands, but you don't want to over tighten it. Okay, after installing the spark plugs, it's time to just reassemble the coils. You just slip them in like so. Like so. Make sure that the catch here is all the way open. You take your coil wire and you plug it in there, and you push it, and it'll, let's see if I can do that on camera. You push it, and it'll actually, the door will actually close on it, and then you push it in like that, and then you just push it in by hand all the way until it seats. And that's all it is to reinstalling the coils and plugging the wires back in. If you notice, there's a little bit of oil here on top of the valve cover here and right here. This is the vanos, and this is a gasket here, and it does leak. And I did contact our customer, and he did not want to repair it at this time. But it's real simple though. If you're doing it on your cars, stay tuned for a video on how to change the vanos. I'll have one of those out soon when I get one in the shop. And also these seals on the oil cap, you can change them, but the cap itself, they're not very expensive. You may want to change them, and they do leak. And there are also vacuum leaks on these cars, so they're not just oil leaks. Okay, we're on the home stretch now. After we got our spark plugs back in, our coils back in and plugged in, if you wanted to, you could start your car. Make sure you don't have any misfires at this time before you put all the covers and stuff back on, which I already done, and we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling. So you're just gonna slip it back underneath the wiring, lift it up and slide it back under in place, and put your 4 bolts back in. All right, after you're getting the cover bolted back on with your 5mm Allens, it's time to put the package tray back on. So you want to make sure the rubber seal on the front here is facing the front of the car. And then on the back, you see the little hooks on the corners here. Those are going to those are actually going to hook underneath the cowling here like this. So when you do it, you kind of eyeball it and you use the little cutouts to kind of guide you, and you're going to slide it under. It takes two hands to maneuver it, and you slide it under till it's flush, and then when you'll know you get it right because your bolt holes will line up here on the corners. Okay, after putting your cowling back in and reinstalling your 8mm bolts on the corners here, you want to put the rubber boots that are here. You want to plug those back in, one on each side here. And then after that, you're going to take your covers that you took off, and you're going to, they got the, try not to mix them up from left and right when you set them aside also, but so you got the little slots like that, and they slide into those little slots for the boots. And then these little clips right here, they clip down here, one on each side. So you just line it up, and actually this one here, I need to tuck it back underneath the wiring for the hood, the squirters for the hood. Tuck it back in. Okay, after attaching your two side covers, they cover up your brake master cylinder, just little covers. They just pop on. So now you're going to put your ambient air temperature sensor back on. And the way you do that is you line it up where the plug is vertical. And you line the slot up and you turn it clockwise. And then you take your two little wire clips and on the little purchase here, just snap them back on place, like so. Now it's time to put the cabin air filter back on. If it's dirty, now is a good time to change it. So it just slips back on over the little slots. Line them up like so, and then put your 6 8mm screws back in. Okay, one last step before we go test drive, and that's to put our wiring harness back into its perches here. So you want to get the wiring harness one in the back first, and they slide onto the, you'll see where they kind of line up. You just slide them onto the little perches and push in, and the little tabs will lock them back into place, as you can see right there. Little tab right there. That'll lock them back into place. And then you take the battery cable one, same thing, you just line all three of them up with the perches, and then once you got them all lined up, push them all in at the same time. One thing I wanted to mention to you guys is this is about a 2¼ hour job. It took me about an hour and 10 minutes to do the whole thing, and so you could save a lot of money by doing it yourself. And once again, this is Brian Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, and as always, it's my pleasure sharing my experience with you guys. And I encourage you guys to follow me for more tips and tricks on cars, and you can follow me on Facebook at Facebook/HowToAutomotive or howtoautomotive.com. Thank you.